And now, the host of Quirks of Israel, Reverend Peter Faust.
Hey, everyone. Hello. How are you doing? Good to see you all. Wonderful. This is episode 4. Thank you for coming out, everyone. I see you got new haircuts. Looks great. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome to episode 4 of the Quirks of Israel. That deserves an applause. Hey, episode 4. Okay, so today's episode is called Tours to Israel. Anything can happen. Why such a title? Well, because on a tour to Israel, anything can happen. Okay, so now many Christians I've met have desired to go to see the Holy Land, the land of the Bible, Israel, and some have wanted this since childhood. And you know what? That completely makes sense, because if anyone has a love for the Bible, then it should be natural to want to visit and walk the land of the Bible. Now, some people go to Israel solo, with friends, maybe a spouse or as a family, and they go for a variety of reasons, whether they're Christian, Jewish, or just anybody who's keen to see what Israel's all about. People go to backpack the Israel Trail or the Jesus Trail, or they go to photograph Israel, to attend one of the high holy days, to study a university or a yeshiva, to lay on a beach, to serve in the IDF, to volunteer at an amazing organization like Bridges for Peace, to attend conferences such as the Institute of Israel Studies, also Bridges for Peace, to participate in the Zealous Israel Project, which is an 11-month volunteer program for young adults, also Bridges for Peace. Okay, no more Bridges for Peace, but if I actually lived up to that promise, I'd be out of a job. Anyway, another reason, and the main reason, people of all backgrounds and stripes go to Israel is to tour. In 2019, over 4 million people went to Israel, the majority Christian tourists. Hey? Hey? That deserves a round of applause. 4 million. Come on. Okay, that's great. Now, I've been at Ben Gurion Airport many times, waiting in arrivals, and suddenly the doors will open with a whoosh, and streaming out will be hundreds of Nigerian Christians, the men dressed in elegant suits and the women wearing the most colorful clothing. The Israelis in arrivals will gawk at them in wonder. It's like watching a magical parade. The suits, ties, dresses, head wraps, it's an incredible sight, and a hush will come over Ben Gurion Airport as if it's been suddenly turned into a sacred space. And these African tourists will stream in, their faces lighting up with smiles as they can see the sunshine of Israel through the exit doors. Then, like a stampede, jubilant and animated Israeli tour guides will direct them out of the airport to their bus with a whole lot of, "Welcome to Israel, my friend. Welcome to Israel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have a brother, Asaf. He lives in Abuja. Do you know him? Where? You have a sister in Toronto? Best place in Canada. My brother Eli lives there. Have you ever heard of Winnipeg?" Okay, enough of that. So, to enjoy a tour to Israel, there are 3 necessary vitals. The first, it is important to go through a credible and professional tour agency. We have a couple we work with Bridges for Peace Canada, since we've been leading tours for decades. So we are excellent at it, and we'd invite you to come and join us. Okay, yeah? Okay. The second one is this. It is vital for the tour guide. Your tour agency will help set this up, but anybody who's led tours or gone on tours to Israel will understand the tour guide will either make a tour memorable or turn it into a disaster. So, trust your tour agency and let them guide you through the process. My experience in Israel is it's full of great and amazing tour guides, but there are special gems, and a good tour guide will be a people magnet, a dynamic and knowledgeable speaker, and have a silly side to them to relate to the tour participants and give them an incredible time. A wonderful relationship is often formed between the tour guide and tour participants, and sometimes that lasts years. I had a tour guide who looked like an Israeli Elvis Presley, and although I never got up the courage to ask him to sing Return to Sender or Jailhouse Rock, I'm not going to do an Elvis impersonation, he was brilliant. He even talked like Elvis. Thank you very much. Maybe Elvis really is alive and in Israel, not getting into that. Anyway, connecting to your Israeli tour guide is amazing and important. They are professional. After all, Israel has high standards and all the guides have to go through rigorous schooling to become a guide. They don't just grab some guy at a falafel stand and give him a tour badge. These are very gifted people. Now, I'm not insinuating the falafel stand guy isn't gifted, but you catch my point, okay? Now, the third and final necessary vital is, of course, the beloved bus driver or the coach driver. Bus makes it sound like you're back in primary school again. So in Israel, your agency will hire an air-conditioned coach with Wi-Fi based on the number of people you have. Some coaches seat 60 people, but you don't have to pack everyone in like sardines. So maybe your cutoff is like 40 to 50 people. Unless your aim is multiple coaches, then that gets bat crazy. Anyway, you have your beautiful coach, and at the helm is your driver. Now, it wouldn't be a long shot to also talk about NASCAR and Formula One in the same sentence as when you mention your coach driver. These guys are phenomenal. Nothing phases them. They are professional and they come with smiles. Almost always. I have personally led 10 tours and only 1 in 10 coach drivers never smiled. He was grumpy all day and every day. Yet still, to insert the Rain Man quote, he was an excellent driver. Very good driver. Here's a tip. You make up a cheer for your driver and say good morning to him every day. Slip in a high five every now and then, maybe a fist bump, or eat with him at breakfast. He'll be your best friend. He'll play great music, maybe even the Bee Gees, and shrug his shoulders when you don't have an American dollar bill and give you a free bottle of water anyway. I think that deserves an applause. Free bottles of water. Maybe free bottles of water for everyone. Okay. The coach drivers go above and beyond. They are incredible people. I've had both Jewish and Arab drivers, and these guys mean business. They'll even pull over so you can buy a box of cherries on the side of some dirt road from a Druze family, with the Druze man sporting the most magnificent mustache you've ever seen. If you don't share the cherries with your driver, well, he's bound to abandon you. But other than that, they are loyal employees of the tourism industry and they clock long hours. Now, I have to also mention that all coach drivers have a mysterious side to them, okay? Or else maybe this is all just in my head, but they seem to be incredibly popular and part of kind of like an inner circle of Israeli society, the Inner Sanctum. Now, I'm not talking about some secret society, but let me discuss with you a number of observations I've made over the years about coach drivers for tour groups. Now, the coach driver possesses the ability to make anyone in Israel laugh, whether border police, IDF soldiers, or a monk at the Mount of Beatitudes, even a nun. People can't resist the coach driver. Even your own tour guide will roar with laughter as he's shouting and pointing out the window, engaged in a dramatic conversation about where to eat while explaining the entire history of Masada and how many cisterns they found on the mountain. The coach driver is like a superhero who's a part of his own Avengers network. They have gangs of chums, mates, pals, friends all over Israel. Everywhere you stop, you'll be popping out after lunch, going to the loo, perusing the gift shop, staring at a flower, enjoying your cup of coffee, or just gazing at the beauty of Israel, wondering in an awestruck manner, I'm in Israel. And then you'll hear it. It starts as a quiet group chuckle, maybe some Hebrew or Arabic words that you don't understand, like the other 99% of Hebrew or Arabic words you don't understand, apart from, shalom, shukran. But you'll hear the chuckle, and you'll go to investigate naturally. Eventually, you'll find him or accidentally stumble upon him, but then you'll see your driver hanging out with his friends, always drinking coffee or the odd tea, carrying on with laughter, then sudden low talking, almost a whisper, followed by a cackle of shouting, more laughter, and a leg slap. What you have just witnessed is the inner circle of a coach driver's life. These inner circles are all over the country, at every archaeological site, hotel, restaurant, coffee shop, as they speak in Hebrew or Arabic, and if you get close enough, one or two of your coach driver's friends may gaze up at you, and your driver may acknowledge you with a nod like this. and a slight curl of the lip that kind of barely resembles a smile, like this, kind of. You feel a trickle of sweat on the back of your neck. You have been warned. You know in that moment there is an invisible line you do not cross. You have been educated in a single cataclysmic moment that there is an invisible force field between you and your coach driver and his inner circle. You know it's safe to walk by, maybe tip your hat in a greeting if you're wearing one, and you should along with sunscreen because it's hot, but you know you never approach your coach driver's inner circle and say, hey guys, what you talking about? No, okay? No. You just tip your hat, you smile, nod, walk on by. Do that, and you'll have the most incredible coach driver, the most amazing Israeli tour guide, and the most memorable tour experience in Israel. Do not upset the balance. Oh, and before I conclude, the first time you see your Israeli tour guide hanging out with the coach driver's inner circle, just remember that they're allowed to do that from time to time, but never the tour participant, never. I heard there was one fellow named Blaine who tried to hang out with with the coach driver's inner circle. Sadly, he was never heard from again. Hey? Okay, that's good. Okay. Israel is quirky. Join me on episode 5 of the Quirks of Israel as we talk about how to float in the Dead Sea. You'll even witness an exciting stunt as I use my fingers, okay, to portray how an individual should enter the salty waters properly, and I will give you some tips on how to float, as well as a charming story. So if you wake up one morning in the next week or two and you notice you're by the Dead Sea, you'll know how to enter the water, float, and the do's and don'ts to make for an enjoyable time. Cheers and shalom. Thank you.